The document was in his briefcase, not hidden, not locked away, just folded inside a manila envelope, under the name of a law firm she didn't recognize. She wasn't snooping. She was looking for a pen. She almost put it back, but she didn't. It was a non-disclosure agreement. Her name was on it, and so was a settlement figure. Her husband had already put a number on what she was worth. He just hadn't told her yet. Let me take you back to where this started. Claire and Marcus met in their late 20s. He had an idea for a business, a good one, but ideas don't pay rent, and Marcus had never been good with money. Claire was. She had a background in operations and a finance degree she'd actually used, and she believed in him, so she went to work. Not for the company, not officially anyway. Her name was never on the letterhead. She was his wife, his partner, the person who ran the books at night after the kids were asleep, built the client proposals on weekends, and smiled through every investor dinner as if looking presentable were her only job in the room. For 8 years, the business grew. Marcus grew with it. He became the kind of man who got quoted in local business profiles, who gave luncheon speeches about grit and self-made success. She was proud of him. That's the part that's hardest to understand now. They had 2 kids, a house that was finally paid down, and a business that had just crossed $2 million in annual revenue. From the outside, they were the story everyone wanted. Claire didn't know she was the only one who still believed it. Her name was Dana. Marcus had hired her as an executive assistant 18 months before Claire found that envelope. He introduced them at the company Christmas party. Dana was polished, professional. She shook Claire's hand and said what a visionary her husband was. Claire thanked her. She remembered thinking Dana seemed very well prepared for someone who'd been there only a few weeks. Then she didn't think about it again for a long time. The first sign she ignored was the late nights. Marcus had always worked late. That was nothing new. The second sign she rationalized, the way he started carrying himself differently, more confident, more careful about how he dressed. The business was doing well, she told herself. Of course, he seemed different. The third sign she couldn't explain away. A hotel receipt. Downtown. A Tuesday night. On a date when Marcus had told her he was at a client dinner she knew the company had never invoiced. She sat with that receipt for 2 weeks. Not because she was in denial. Because she wanted to be certain before she moved. Then she hired a private investigator. What he found in 10 days changed the shape of everything she thought she knew. Dana had not come to them through a recruiter. Marcus had met her 14 months before he hired her, at a conference Claire had helped him prepare for, using materials Claire had written. The affair didn't start after Dana joined the company. Dana joined the company because the affair had already started. He hadn't hired Dana because she was qualified. He hired her so the cover story would be airtight, so that when Claire asked where he'd been on a Tuesday night, the answer was always work. Dana had been in their house, sat at their dinner table, looked Claire in the eye at that Christmas party and called her husband a visionary, while he was already drafting the paperwork that would remove Claire from the life she'd built. The settlement figure in that envelope came to less than 1 year of her unpaid work. He had a timeline. He had an attorney. He had thought it through carefully. He made one mistake. He left the envelope in a briefcase that Claire had bought him. She didn't confront him. Most people would have. The anger was real. The urge to stand in front of someone and force them to see what they've done is a deeply human one. but Claire had watched Marcus operate for 8 years. She knew exactly how he handled confrontation. He deflected. He minimized. He had a gift for turning your reaction into the problem. Walk in with that envelope, and she'd spend 6 months defending her feelings instead of protecting her future. So she made an appointment with a forensic accountant instead. She brought every document she could get to, and as the person who had quietly run the back office for 8 years, that was most of them. The next 3 weeks were the longest of her life. She made dinners. She showed up to his client events. She sat across from him at breakfast and asked about his day, and he told her about meetings and problems she had built the systems to solve. She smiled, and every night, after he fell asleep, she went back to work. The forensic accountant's report came back 40 pages long, a secondary business account opened 14 months earlier. Invoices paid to a vendor with no physical address and no verifiable employees. A retirement account in his name alone, funded in part by transfers out of their joint account. Marcus wasn't just planning to leave her. He was engineering a version of events in which she had nothing to dispute and no ground to stand on. Claire read every page of that report twice. Then she called an attorney and retained her on a Thursday. The attorney read the first page, looked up and said, "He moved assets into a secondary account 14 months ago." "I know," Claire said. "I found all of it." The attorney smiled. Marcus was served the following Monday, before he could file first, before he could shape the story, before he had any idea what 40 pages of documentation looked like in the hands of a woman who was done being patient. He came home that evening and stood in the kitchen doorway. His phone had been ringing since mid-afternoon. He had the look of a man who had rehearsed a conversation and was realizing none of his lines fit. He started with "sorry." Claire let him finish. Then she told him about the forensic accountant. The case took 11 months. It was not pleasant, but the concealment was documented, the timeline was clear, and her attorney used every page of that report to take apart the settlement Marcus had drafted without her. She walked away with the house, and a structured buyout of her equity in the business she had built, paid over 3 years, with interest. His largest client had first been introduced to Marcus through a connection of Claire's. 6 weeks after the settlement closed, that client called her. They'd heard what happened. They wanted her to know they were following her. As for Dana, she and Marcus are still together. It isn't going well. Claire doesn't spend much time thinking about it. That envelope is in a box in her office now. His offer, her counter, the final judgment, 3 documents, and the distance between them is 8 years of work, properly valued. There's something about documents that people forget. They don't negotiate. They don't minimize. They don't tell you you're being emotional or that you're misremembering. They just say what happened. And when you know how to read them, really read them, they say everything. That's what this channel is. Stories told through what people signed, what they filed, what they put in writing, when they thought no one was watching. The truth has a paper trail, and we follow it. New story every week? Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if this one felt familiar, you know where the comments are.